Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for all of our panelists. And with that, I have the honor of bringing up stage our moderator for this particular panel session. Please put your hands together for Prosper Uwafo.
And so a lot of founders fail today, not because they are not brilliant, but it's because they're not asking the right questions. Some people create products for themselves and not for a market. Now, there's a question I want to ask all the designers here, you always have to ask this question, right? When somebody comes to you with a design gig or a product development gig, first question you want to ask is there a market for this product? That's the first question, because if you create a very beautiful product and nobody's interested in it, it's not going to work. Now, the next question you're going to ask, right, is people can really want something and not be willing to pay for it. How many people here are paying ChatGPT premium? As good as ChatGPT is, how many people are paying for premium, right? So, first of all, you have to understand your market, and then people can really like something, but when you tell them to open their wallets, they tell you no, right? So, if you analyze these two things, is there a market for this product, and is there a gap in that market as well? Then, once you discover that market, can they buy what I'm selling? How much am I going to be selling this thing, right? Once you're able to figure out these things, you'll be able to build products that are not only do they want this product, they will tell you, shut up and take my money, because it's something that really solves the problem that they have.
One thing that I picked from your answer is we should always try to make sure that there is product market fit before we even start developing anything that we want to build. That's amazing. Thank you so much. My next question will be for you, Linda. How are you doing? Okay. I want to ask, how can predictive analytics help teams anticipate design needs ahead of time as usage grows?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, the thing is that we need to understand that with data, you can be able to know when a user is going to have problem. For example, with data, you can be able to predict if there will be a problem, because you don't have to wait for a user to kind of like start complaining that, oh, I'm trying to sign up and I'm not able to sign up. So this can actually happen when a product is actually live, because you can be able to know there are applications that you can use to understand how user clicks on your product. We have Hotjar, we have Microsoft Clarity. So you can be able to like understand how a user is experiencing your product, if they are having any issue or there is like a drop off, right? So with that, you can be able to like, go further by doing your own research. At that point where you have seen that there is a particular issue, or there is a situation where a user, not even just one user, but probably a lot of people are trying to sign up and they're not able to sign up. With that, that can kind of like, predict or tell you that maybe a flow is actually broken, or that maybe there is a particular problem that is happening, or maybe there's just something wrong with that particular flow that people are not able to sign up. So you can go further to do more research by probably reaching out to those people to understand that, okay, we can see that you're trying to sign up, you are not able to complete that particular flow. What's the issue? So you can be able to like, reach out to those particular users, right? And probably get like understand the reason why they are not able to complete a particular flow or a particular action in your website or application. So that's how data can actually help you to predict all those things even before people start complaining. So I would advise that you don't wait for users or people to start complaining or posting on social media, I'm trying to make transactions. Because sometimes if I enter Twitter is like a war zone. They'll call one, probably all those tech platform that, oh, I'm trying to pay and I'm not able to pay. People should call your people to action. Your interface is not good. Those kind of things. So you don't have to wait for when those things happen. You don't have to wait when people are complaining, when the problem is already happening. You can probably get like predict all those things even before it actually happen using data. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that response. Building on that, Mufasa, I would like to, sorry if I didn't get your name, I would like to ask how do we personally evaluate whether a product design is maturing? Because we're talking about getting feedback from users, all of this data that we are using. So how do we ascertain whether, like, all of these feedback that we are getting, whether the product is really maturing to where we want it to be?
Good afternoon, everyone. So I think a couple of panelists and speakers have spoken about, data here. And the most important thing when, to determine if, a product has reached that level of maturity, the fact that you have a benchmark before building anything, first of all. For example, you're building a fintech product. You have a target. What do you want to achieve by building this product? Now, when you gather this data, these are the benchmark that you will use in assessing if those analytics, those data that you gathered is meeting those benchmark. Now, this is not a straightforward thing. Product evolves, things change. As for example, you're building a product. You start with an idea. As you gather, more data, your insights, become clearer. Things change, but nevertheless, the core idea doesn't change, and those data that you gathered is going to be guided by those core idea, and that's how you do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that response. My next question would be for you, Ebuka. Samuel. Samuel, branding evolves as products grow. From your experience, how does a brand identity shift from MVP stage to mass adoption in terms of branding?
All right. Good evening, everyone. First off, I'd like to say that this chair feels so big for me. And it just feels like I'm drowning inside. All right. All right. So regarding your question, for a product to be ready and moving from MVP to a final product, there's a lot that goes on with branding. And when we talk about branding, I think a lot of us, okay, let me not say a lot of us, but some people still feel like branding is all about logo or just color or anything. Branding in itself is how everyone perceive your products, right? How everyone perceive your product. Let's look for example, we all know Airbnb, right? And at the initial stage, everybody just think that Airbnb is just somewhere you can just go to probably get a room or a house or something like that. But over the years, they've evolved, and now we all see Airbnb as an experience rather than just somewhere you can just go to get a room. And they've evolved from a stage where they have, the MVP to the stage where they are now, and the branding as your products evolve from the MVP state to a final state. Sometimes your core value doesn't change, obviously, but there are times that the more your user base expands, the more you begin to create for different experience, for different user type. A pure example is the way I'm going to use a product is going to be different from the way someone who is blind is going to use that same product. Now, looking to ChatGPT once again, a lot of us like to use ChatGPT for whatever reason at all, right? Now, at the initial stage, all you just have to go there is to just type and give you answer and everything. But right now, you might not necessarily even need to type. You just have to press a button and say every single thing you want, and it's going to help you interpret it, and it's going to even read your answer back to you. Now, it is easier for even someone who is blind to use ChatGPT, unlike the initial stage. So what I would say is that branding in itself is going to help users understand your product, and it evolves from MVP to the final stage. As your products evolve, your branding also evolves to accommodate for different type of users.
Interesting. Just to follow up on that, how do you think products can stay consistent in as much as we are changing all of these things that we're working on? How do you think we can stay consistent and not like I'll open ChatGPT tomorrow and I'm seeing a totally different experience from what I used to have? So as we are evolving and we are changing these different parts of the product, how do we ensure consistency in everything that we're doing?
All right. Consistency in itself is a broad topic, right? And it doesn't, it's not the same for every single product. But staying consistent in whatever you do, I mean, your product, first of all, you want to make sure that either the designer, developer, marketers, or anybody, or even stakeholders that are involved in a particular product, there is a central system for everybody. I mean, designers, we used to say design system, even if all of us don't necessarily use design system, right? Okay, so you need to make sure that there is a single truth for everybody. He said something about core value when you were talking, right? You need to make sure that the core value for everybody doesn't change, right? And with that, it's going to help with consistency. And I think another thing again is, why products is evolving. Obviously, you can't still retain probably every single thing you started with, right? As product keep evolving, we need to understand that no matter what you want to evolve, everybody knows that on a mobile device, your navigation is always at the bottom, right? Now, taking navigation to the top, all because you want to evolve or because you want to be creative, it is going to disrupt what the users already know. I mean, I use a very big phone, right? It is easy for me to just press something here than to go to the top to go and press something. So even when products are evolving, you need to make sure that you still keep core value, core things that, I mean, for example, for UI, for designers, you need to make sure that there are core design principles that still needs to be followed. I mean, while everything can be, while you can break everything, but there are core design principles that still needs to be followed. And when you have all of these things, while evolving your products, you will still be able to stay consistent. And one other thing I want to say again is, I don't know if you use Instagram very well here, you will know that recently they've updated a lot of things, UI wise, even the experience and everything. But it still feels like the same thing because they did not just come and say, okay, today, because we are evolving, because the market is evolving, we want to change everything completely. It was done gradually. The first the first thing that was rolled out was for you to be able to see reels of probably anybody in the community, and at the same time you can see reels of people that you only follow. You don't want to see any other thing. You just want to see for the people you only follow or people that follows you. So things like that. Recently they updated the navigation, but they still keep some of the things that was there consistent, not like they just come and just change everything at once. So what I'm saying in essence is that for you to still maintain consistency and everything, first you need to follow the core values, the core UI element or the core element of any product at all. And secondly, you want to make sure that you don't just change things on users and they don't know anything about your product anymore. You still want to keep some things so that the users know that, did I just open another app? So that they won't know that, they won't say that, okay, I'm used to this and now I'm seeing something different that I don't even know how to use. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samuel. So my next question would be for you, Ebuka. So what mistakes do you see people make at the stages of user experience and marketing that you think it's a problem that affects retention and scaling products?
All right, so let's first of all break it down. What does retention and scaling means? Retention means that you have already acquired a user, right, and you want the person to continue to use the product. While scaling means, okay, I've gotten one user, how can I get 50, right? And so I think that the first mistake that I see people immediately make is that they don't know which stage they are in, right? If you've acquired a certain number of users, this is for people that are doing design and probably building for startups. If you've acquired a certain number of users and they only buy once, you do not have a user, right? You want to create a system where your users can buy again and again. So first of all, understand what phase is my business in. Am I in the retention phase or am I in the scaling phase? Again, if you've acquired a user, either through whatever means, you use advertising, you use PR, influencer marketing, anything that you used, right? It's important that before I go ahead, something is very, very key that I want to mention. I found out that most designers do their work and say, they're literally not concerned about anything else after the work has been done. But that's a big mistake because you're leaving a lot of insights on the table that can even impact whatever you're doing next, right? So first step, be in those conversations when they're having those meetings. Be there, even if you don't know anything. Sit down there and listen. You will learn a lot of things that you probably would not have imagined if you were not in that room, right? So back to the question that you asked about retention and scaling. The mistake that, again, I see a lot of people make is they don't have a system where they are able to follow up on people that they've acquired. How can you follow up on these people? Push notifications, email marketing, calls. Something as simple as picking up your phone and calling your user can get you to make that user buy again or subscribe if they've canceled the subscription. Now, for scaling, before you start to scale, think about your margins. Am I profitable? If you try to scale and are not profitable, you would literally destroy your business. So it's extremely important that you think about your profitability. Can I now decide to maybe invest more in marketing? Can I maybe invest more in building a new product or feature to ensure that the business can continue to print more money, right? So there's no answer to these questions. It's more questions than even answers. And if you're able to answer these questions in your business, right, the magic that you see happen will be astronomical.
Thank you. A round of applause for him. Okay. Linda, what future skills do you think designers and marketers need in this time and age? And also thinking about the evolving landscape, AR, AI, and all of these things. So how do you see branding evolving in all of these interfaces, and how do you see the landscape going forward?
Okay, so for marketers, I would say one skill I would say for marketers is going to be customer psychology. Yeah, so one of the things, I actually worked as a brand designer before I started UX design, right? So one of the things I always notice is that most times customers don't even marketers don't even understand the product they are marketing. I don't know if you have marketers in this place. Like, they don't even get to like understand. There's no how you market a product that you don't understand. So you need to understand the product that you are marketing end to end. In fact, you need to be able to you should actually be using the product that you are marketing, because you cannot be marketing a product to your customers and probably when they have issues, you don't even understand what the issue is. You don't even understand at what point they actually have that issues, right? So I feel like for marketers, they should be able to like understand the product they are marketing, right? So that they can be able to reach out to like designers to be like, okay, one of my customers is actually having probably an issue using this or probably using this particular or doing this particular flow, please can you reach out, let's do like more research, right? So I feel like marketers and designers should be able to like work together, because most of the times I feel like they just leave all the work to design. If a product is not actually working, it will be like, oh, researchers are not doing what they're meant to be, or even the company might even say that, oh, it's the product managers, your product is not even doing well, we are not making money with your product. But meanwhile, the market team are actually there, and the issue is actually happening because they don't even know what they are even marketing to their customers. Then for designers, I would say data scientists, right? I feel like, because most of the times in big companies that have not just designers, they have researchers, they have data scientists that are actually on board to do all those things. Most designers actually will just probably like relax that, oh, I don't have to go further to check those data myself, because we have data scientists in our company that can do that, right? Big companies, if you have opportunity to work in very big companies, there are less things you will actually do as designer. But if you're working in a startup, you need to understand that you have to go further to do your research yourself. You have to go further. You have to wear the cap of a data scientist to get data for yourself. You should understand how to use most of the tools that the data scientists are actually using, right? So in startups, nobody is actually like, they don't have like, probably some startups actually don't have enough money to hire like data scientists, hire like every individual to do the work for them, right? As a designer, you see yourself wearing the hat and doing the work of a researcher, the work of a data scientist, the work of actually a designer as well. So I would say that both designers and marketers should be able to like, have the skill of data scientists, and marketers should be able to have the skill of customer psychology. They should understand how the product works. Then in terms of AR and VR, right? Just imagine, right, that I want to buy a furniture and I go to a store to buy a furniture. I will see myself probably buying that furniture, carrying all those furniture to my house to even see if it's going to even fit in my sitting room. But with the help of AR and VR, you could actually just bring out your phone and see how that furniture can actually fit in your home without having to probably like get them all the way to your home to see how it fits, right? The same with voice interface. I know that a lot of us actually have heard of Alexa, right? If you are using iPhone, how many people are using iPhone here? How many of us are using iPhone? Please, can you raise your hands? Do we all know about Siri? Some of us can just probably, Siri, please call Adegunle for me. I mean, all those things are voice interface, right? When it comes to Alexa, Alexa has this personality, like a help personality, right? And somehow we as users, or probably us, have like we are kind of like attached to Alexa. For those that actually have Alexa, I can actually afford it in their house, right? You have this kind of like deep connection with them, because you could actually just stay like relax and probably tell Alexa, can you on the TV for me? Alexa, open the door. Alexa, on my AC, right? You have this very close relationship with Alexa, because this thing is actually like voice interface. And I would say that I'm not really sure that we as humans will have the kind of deep connection that we have with Alexa or probably VR or AR when compared to just a random interface, right? I'm not sure that is actually possible, right? So you see that these things have like a higher edge when it comes to other interface. So I'm going to say, as designers, right, we should, especially for someone that is designing maybe an e-commerce, maybe someone reached out to me, oh, I want to design an e-commerce platform, right? And probably other platforms, you should be able to like know when to leverage on this technology, right? Because this technology kind of like makes the interaction for users much better. They have this closeness, this attachment when using this technology. So we should be able to like understand and know when to bring them in your interface, because most times random interfaces can be actually very boring. But when a user can go beyond that interface to have like a very close interaction with your design, in terms of voice interface, you can have like this closeness with example Alexa. You have this deep connection with Alexa. In terms of AR or VR, there is this deep connection you have with it and excitement when using it, right? So I'm going to say that we should be able to like understand and know when to leverage on this technology when designing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for her. Okay. So my next question for you, Mohammed, is what do you think product teams underestimate most times in trying to move a product from MVP to the growth stage? What are these areas from your experience you think that they are really important, but most times it's being underestimated? Thank you.
All right. So when you build an MVP, first of all, let's understand, what an MVP is. It's a minimum viable product. When you build an MVP at that stage, you don't have users. You build with an idea. Now, when you build an MVP and you want to move to the next phase, which is the growth, between the MVP and the growth phase, that is where data comes into play. Now, you start, testing. When you start testing, you look for important insight in those testing. For example, you build a fintech for people to transfer money from, let's say, Nigeria to Ghana. But maybe in that feature, there are so many other multiple features, and instead of them transferring money to Ghana, they are doing something else. Now, in your MVP, you have an idea that that is what you want them to do, but when they are using your product, they are doing something else because you give them, that ability to do. So at that point, the insight you gather is what you're going to use to, iterate on the next phase of the growth phase. For example, when you gather this data and you look at this insight, you see so many touch points in terms of, you want them to do A and B and they are doing, something else. You now start asking yourself, because it's an MVP and you gave a data earlier on that says that 92% of product fails. Now, another point I want to give is that even from MVP to growth, 70% of startups fail. They don't, scale through. So what is important between the MVP and the growth is the fact that even your product can change. For example, we have seen startups, saying we are edtech when they start. And, when they launch the MVP, people start using it for, we can even cite insight from almighty YouTube as well. YouTube did not start as a, video sharing platform. It started as an edtech platform, and when people started using it to publish so many different videos and all of that, that is when that it became polarized instead of being a niche product of an edtech. So that is an insight that they have used to iterate on the next phase of the product, and it's important as well because when you build an MVP, you don't know if people is going to accept what you're building. So when you gather all of this data, you are going to ask yourself, okay, what are those data points? What are those insights you are gathering? Do you need to change, your product direction in terms of, you want to build a cross-border fintech solution, but what they are using it for is from Lagos to Enugu or from. So you kind of ask yourself, okay, instead of cross-border, does that mean that my users want something that they can use within Nigeria instead of Ghana or Cote d'Ivoire or something like that? So the most important thing is for you to gather enough insight at, between your MVP and your growth phase to test those insights as well. Not just gathering those insights. You need to test them. When you test them, all at this point, you're beginning to see patterns. And when, you see these patterns, you can be able to predict that, okay, this is the next phase for us to go in the product development cycle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mohammed. We are rounding up now. So my last question for you, Samuel, would be, what's one advice you have for teams, designers and marketers trying to scale from MVP to the growth stage? What's one piece of advice you have for them? Thank you.
All right. I'd like to say that, firstly, a lot of designers probably don't know how to work with large data. And when I say large data, it doesn't have to be numbers alone. For example, you want to do a PRD, and all I'm just saying is story, 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 right? There's no points, bullet points, or anything. And a lot of designers don't like to work with that, because most of the times we just want to do the visuals, not to read so many things, and which I feel like a lot of designer needs to start implementing into their workflow, to learn to read. And also, just like you mentioned earlier on, your work as a designer in an organization is not just to push pixels. If you're pushing pixels alone, I promise you, you will not move beyond just a designer. You will not move beyond just a designer. For a company to promote you or anything, you have to do more than just working in Figma. You have to contribute to other things more than you just working in Figma. So my advice for both designers and even marketers is that we should learn to collaborate, not hand off. There's a difference between handoff and collaboration. When you hand off, okay, I've done my own parts, this is it, explain it, and that is it. We should learn to collaborate. There are times you are designing certain things, you don't understand what you've been given, or you don't even understand some part of the PRD, right? You need to ask questions, ask tangible questions, not questions that will make you look dumb, right? You need to ask questions that even when maybe anybody that has one position or the other in your organization, once they even hear the question, but you love Kolosha, that kind of thing. So we need to learn to collaborate more and not just hand off our design or hand off whatever document you have written for a designer, and you just feel like, okay, you've done your part and that is it. So I will iterate it again. We need to collaborate more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think we've come to the end of this particular section. I'm going to pass the mic to the MC to continue from there.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for our panelists. A better round of applause for them. Please pose for pictures.